So, Alien Covenant. Let's talk about this movie, shall we? Now, first off, just want to say that this is the channel I'm be doing all my movie reviews on. I kind of mentioned it a while ago, but I'm gonna do it on this channel because it just doesn't fit for my normal channel, and plus it's kind of what this whole channel is supposed to be about, sort of, kind of, not really. Let's talk about Alien Covenant, because I got a lot to say. First off, Alien Covenant is Ridley Scott's, I guess, first entry back into the Alien saga. If you don't want to count Prometheus, because I know some people hate that movie so much. But it is essentially his next entry into a new trilogy leading up to the events of Alien. The reason why I mentioned the whole thing about kind of brushing aside Prometheus, I'll get into a little bit later. But that's essentially what it is. Another prequel to Alien, and apparently we're getting one more that's going to be another prequel to Alien. And apparently there's going to be another 3 movies after that. That's what the rumor is as of now, but this is part of a new trilogy. But Alien Covenant basically follows the tale of the Covenant that are going to colonize some new planet, and basically where they're gonna have a whole nother life away from Earth. And as they are kind of going about the depths of space, something kind of goes wrong, and they all have to wake up from hypersleep. And they see that there's some sort of beacon coming from a nearby planet, and they decide to go to this planet that's a little bit off course and is not their intended destination, but hey, it's got a whole bunch of vital signs, and we're gonna go and check this out because John Denver's playing, or at least a song that is playing from John Denver. And that's basically the initial plot going into this film. As far as the goods that I can say about it, the movie looks absolutely beautiful. All of Ridley Scott's films always have a very gorgeous look to them. They always look very realistic. And the same thing I can go about even like the gore in this movie and stuff too, is that the effects are handled very well to an extent. But for the most part, a lot of the effects are handled really well as a lot of the acting. There really wasn't anybody that I was sitting in my seat just kind of cringing at some of the shit that they were saying. Everybody did their job and did it good enough. And I mean, there's a little bit of ties to Prometheus that if you wanted some answers as far as what happened afterwards, there's a couple things that you can look forward to. For the most part though, this is a really bad movie. Yeah, this movie's not really that good. And I'm about to get into it because there's a lot of stuff that really bogs this movie down, which sucks because I don't want to hate an Alien movie. I'm a pretty big fan of these movies, and it sucks that I have to sit here and say that Alien Covenant is really not that good. And a lot of it has to do with the direction of the story. First off, if you're going into this movie expecting it to be a sequel to Prometheus, it is, but it also scraps almost everything that Prometheus set up. Which, if you loved Prometheus, is going to be a major downside. If you hated Prometheus, well, then I guess that's pretty good for you. But they kind of brushed that movie to a side. There's still some elements there, but a lot of what was going to go on with that movie is just never talked about. And on top of that, this movie is wildly predictable. Every single death scene you can see coming from a mile away. There's also some twists in this movie that you can pick up 30 minutes, 45 minutes before the actual twist happens. They're terribly executed, and you see these things coming from a mile away, and then when it eventually happens, you go, oh, I kind of figured that was going to happen. Also, about half of the characters within this group are stupid, and they make terrible decisions that really, when you sit there and you realize what it is that they were doing, was only done to progress the plot forward. Oh, we need something terrible to happen to keep these guys stranded here for now. Alright, so now this character is going to start doing something absolutely stupid that would never happen. Apparently these are all trained colonists, that this is probably all going against the protocol, so why are you making these dumb decisions? You just sit there and you're like, well, what is going on? And the thing is that this movie kind of started to have me, and then this scene from the trailer where you see the two girls kind of talking back and forth about how one of them needs to be let out. That's the scene that lost me. From that point forward, this movie kind of started to go downhill. I do have to say though, Michael Fassbender's character kind of was the focal front of this movie. That's kind of the most interesting stuff that's going on. It sadly doesn't save it, but a lot of the stuff that's being discussed with his character is probably the most interesting and the most redeeming thing about this film. And even Danny McBride, he's just the typical comedic relief, and I mean, he kind of plays a stock character, but he also didn't play Danny McBride, which was impressive to say the least. It's something that I'm glad was done in that way, but really anybody could have played his character. But the fact that it was played by Danny McBride, I actually liked, because now you can see that he can play other characters besides just himself. But going back on it, this movie is just a mess of a bunch of stuff that you've already seen and done better in Alien. And one of the big complaints that I've heard some people say is that there's not a lot of aliens in this movie. And for the most part, there really isn't, and that's not something I'm going to sit here and complain about, because the original Alien didn't show too much of it, but that was also done in a very creative way to help build suspense. The alien stuff in this movie happens about the last 20 minutes of the movie, and just kind of feels tacked on because the movie's called Alien Covenant and not Prometheus Covenant. And honestly, that's the stuff that feels like a completely different movie. Is that last 20 minutes. It just kind of feels like, oh, this is somebody's fan film of Alien. Okay. It just kind of comes out of nowhere. There's no suspense involved with it. And, you know, that glorious shower scene that should have been a big fucking red flag to me when I noticed it in the trailer, which if you saw that and you're sitting there thinking, please, this movie better not go down this direction, it does go down that direction numerous times. This movie is essentially Friday the 13th, and this movie is basically Jason X with a little bit of Prometheus in there. And that's not something I want to be saying, because again, I genuinely like this property, and I find it interesting about a lot of the lore between Alien and Aliens, and even some of the stuff that's talked about in Prometheus. Even though that movie isn't necessarily the best thing in the world, it touches on some interesting topics. And the fact that I'm sitting here saying that this movie is basically a better version of Jason X, that's not something that I should be, nor I wanted to say about this movie. And another reason why I'm bringing up this Jason X comparison is because all these characters you're basically going to see die, like you would see in a Friday the 13th film. A lot of them, you don't remember their names, you don't really know what's going on, there's no character development, there's no character arcs between any of these characters. They're just kind of put in this situation, you barely know who's who and who's with who, and apparently they're all a bunch of couples, and you don't know who is dating who, or any of this other stuff, and you don't care for them. And I know there was stuff on YouTube that was going into the pre-log about this film that would give more development to these characters, but the issue is that's a separate thing that's not in this movie. Yes, it does enhance the movie, but it's also not something you're going to see when you go into this movie as it is. And even the prologue stuff, it's there, and it starts to give you some weight, but it's still not enough. And you basically kind of go back and think of all these characters as just body bags you want to get killed by xenomorphs, and that's not something that I want out of an Alien film. Now, I want to go into a couple spoilers real quick. If you want my final synopsis of the film, click the timestamp right there, and it'll bring you to my final opinions. So if you haven't seen the movie, or maybe you just don't fucking care and you just want to hear spoilers, well, here we go. Honestly, let's talk about the ending first real quick. The ending was not something that I cared for in execution. The ending itself I have no problem with. The whole ending with Michael Fassbender's character, as they made that blatant switch, as he starts cutting his hair to make it look like Walter's version, instead of the David version, immediately you know there's going to be some sort of blatant switch or some sort of foolery going around that he's going to try to become what Walter is to trick the crew. The second that happens, you're like, I know what's going to go on. Let's just see how far they take it. Sure enough, you know, the ending, it's not Walter on the ship, on the Covenant. It's David. And now he's going to use this whole plethora of people as his breeding ground for xenomorphs. And that ending itself could have worked, and I honestly don't necessarily mind how it ended when everybody goes into cryo sleep and he asks Mother to start playing that song. That could have been a very well executed scene if it wasn't given away halfway through the goddamn movie. And one scene I want to talk about specifically, just to drive home that point of how idiotic a lot of these characters are. I'm guessing the script called for them to be stranded on this planet, and that apparently, oh yeah, there's only one of these ships that can go from the Covenant down to the planet. I don't know how the fuck that's supposed to happen, but there's only one of them, so they have to be stranded on this planet that they're just taking a detour on. Oh, so that means the ship needs to blow up. Okay, so let's have the medic lose her shit, make stupid decisions, lock somebody in a room with somebody who's convulsing and having a backburster coming out of him, and then we'll have her then decide to have a change of fate, run and grab a shotgun, try to shoot it, slip on some blood, leave the shotgun there, run out and grab another shotgun, and as she's trying to shoot this, it's not a xenomorph, I know, but I don't know what they call it in this movie, and then ends up shooting some sort of fuel can and blows up the whole thing. The second that scene happened, I damn nearly, it lost me. It fucking lost me, because as that happened, it paved the way for the stupidity of a lot of the characters in this movie. And what sucks is that this scene started off with genuine tension as both as the two characters who were infected, which I can't remember their fucking names because they barely give you any time with these characters to learn who they are, but they're trying to rush to the med bay as they're sick, and they're starting to cough up blood and all this stuff. That scene was starting to become tension, and as soon as Danny McBride's wife decides to lock these two in the room, that's when all the tension just disappeared, just like that, and it just keeps getting worse. Like a prime example, the new captain after James Franco dies in the first 5 minutes of the movie. When this new captain of the ship obviously knows that David is a little bit fucked up and is not necessarily thinking right. Yes, I know he's a robot. He's not thinking, but you know what I'm talking about. He starts to go a little haywire. After he knows that this is not somebody he needs to trust, he then goes off on his own, follows David to see whatever it is he's working on, and he sticks his face right over the face hugger pod, and it comes out just like in the original Alien, which is a scene that you're just sitting there and you're like, yep, this is gonna happen. Yeah, he's gonna stick his head over, the face hugger's gonna get on him, and he's gonna die. I'm so not shocked that that's what happened. And for the most part, it's just like that throughout a lot of the movie, which just makes you sit back in your seat and you're painfully watching this. Anyways, I don't know. If I had to recommend this film to anybody, I mean, if you're a die-hard Alien fan, you've seen all of them, including Prometheus, you're probably gonna see this movie anyways. But to anybody else, I can't recommend this movie. It's not a good movie. Yeah, it's visually entertaining. It's very good to look at for the most part. But besides that, everything else is terrible. I can't recommend this to the Alien fans because that only happens in the last 20 minutes and it's already shit that you've already seen before. I can't recommend this to the people who liked Prometheus because they completely scrapped everything from Prometheus to an extent. And I can't even recommend this to the people who want to see something that's just like Friday the 13th and see a whole bunch of people die but from a xenomorph because they're going to be bored to death because of all the stuff that's going on with Michael Fassbender's character. All in all, I don't think I can recommend this movie to anybody. And if I had to give it a numerical grading, I would probably give it a 4 out of 10. Yeah, it's visually entertaining. It's visually gorgeous to look at. It's a good looking movie, but everything else falls flat and falls really hard on its face. And again, you've seen all this shit happen before and done better in Alien, at least when it comes to the last 20 minutes. And it sucks to say that. Anyways, that's my opinions on Alien Covenant. If you guys have seen it and you liked it, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you liked it or hated it. I'm curious to know other people's opinions on this. I personally really did not like this movie, and I can't recommend it because it's not, I don't regret watching it, but it's not something that I would sit down and watch again, nor is something I would recommend somebody else to go and see. Anyways, if you guys want to, follow my Twitter at Joey McGruber, or you can hit me up on my Twitter at Joey McGruber. That's always greatly appreciated. This channel has hardly any subscribers compared to my main channel. If you guys want to see more content from me, you guys can also check out my main channel, which is As Seen on YouTube, and that will be linked in the description as well. I do YouTube videos over there. They're not as like they're not, has nothing to do with movies actually, to be honest. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in probably another movie review or something of that sorts I'm gonna do a lot of movie-ish stuff here because I love movies, and my normal channel's not necessarily the platform to be talking about that stuff. Anyways, I'll see you guys in my next video. So see ya.